Baki begins at a high school in Tokyo, Japan. At that school, a male student named Gouki Hanma mysteriously has a terrible aura. Every student who wants to attack him will be overshadowed by the fear that makes them fail to attack him. The strangeness was answered when an old man named Mitsunari Tokugawa came to his school and made a special request to the principal to meet him privately. In the private meeting, Tokugawa called Baki a champion, which made him feel annoyed. Tokugawa then tells him that soon there will be 5 special powers in the world that will come to Tokyo, so he must prepare himself. The 5 special powers referred to by Tokugawa are 5 convicts, each of whom will be executed as punishment for their crimes. The first inmates came from Agarathos Prison, a maximum security prison located on Tacoma Small Island, in Washington, D.C., United States. That night, dozens of police personnel were bringing a male death row inmate number 777 named Dorian to the place of execution. When he was about to be executed by hanging, a priest asked what his last wish was, and he replied that he wanted to taste defeat. After hearing his last words, the priestess, without saying anything, immediately executed him. After 10 minutes of Dorian being strangled by the leash, a male doctor came to check whether he was really dead. But it turns out he is still alive and immediately gets up to slaughter everyone in the room. When several police officers came to inspect the execution room, they were surprised by all members of the police, priests, and doctors hanging from ropes previously used as execution ropes. On the room's wall, Dorian wrote a message that he would go to Tokyo to find someone who can defeat him. The second inmate was a male death row inmate named Hector Doyle from the Cairo prison located on the outskirts of Glasgow in England. Doyle also said that he wanted to feel his final defeat when the executor asked what his last wish was. The executor arrogantly replied that he could not give Doyle defeat, but he could give him the last pain. At the same time, the executor immediately signaled to turn on the electric chair, and Doyle was tormented by a very powerful electric shock. However, it turned out that such torture still could not get him killed. Even he could easily get out of the electric chair and get behind a police officer very quickly. He immediately killed all police officers and the executor in the room. He then told a pilot to take him to Tokyo so he could taste his final defeat. The third inmate is from Evin Silo Prison in Russia, where the prison was once the site of a dangerous experiment to launch deadly ballistic missiles. That night, one of the male death row inmates, Sikorsky, had managed to escape by climbing a steam tunnel. And after being investigated by the police, he killed one of Russia's strongest heroes while leaving a message that he would go to Tokyo to find his final defeat. The fourth inmate comes from a level 5 underwater prison in Florida, United States. A male inmate named Speck managed to escape from the jail after he managed to kill a male visitor and used the visitor's gold teeth to open the lock. Speck can even last 5 minutes in water where the water pressure is so strong that the average person will only last for 30 seconds. With that ability, he managed to swim towards the mainland and instantly killed the entire Coast Guard. On the other hand, in Japan, a dangerous convict locked in a bulletproof glass room named Ryuko Yanagi is known to often use poison gas as his primary weapon. That night, Yanagi asks the police officers on duty about the world's deadliest gas. However, the police guards were frightened and pointed weapons at him while asking him to back off. But instead of backing down, he, without much effort, could break the thick bulletproof glass as if it were an ordinary window pane. After killing all the police guards, he leaves a message saying he will go to Tokyo to find his final defeat. These 5 men were what Tokugawa meant as the 5 great powers which would come to Tokyo with the same ambition of finding their final defeat. Because of that, he asked Baki to always be prepared because the 5 people were not ordinary prisoners but very dangerous. And Tokugawa asked Baki to get ready because he was the strongest martial arts master in Tokyo and had become the champion of the underground battle arena. One day Baki is surrounded by several school thugs, each have good martial arts skills and the art of using a knife. However, Baki casually and without feeling the slightest bit afraid, immediately approached them and defeated them one by one. He can quickly disarm them and use them to attack the weapon's owner. When the last thug is about to shoot Baki with a gun, Speck suddenly appears and asks the thug hand over his gun. Speck fired the gun several times into his cheek without feeling any pain. Speck said he came to Tokyo to meet Baki, the strongest human in Tokyo, while trying to shake hands with him. But unexpectedly, the hand turned out to be a piece of the hand from Speck's previous victim. Without hesitation, he brutally beat Baki with multiple punches until he fell limply to the ground. Fortunately, several police officers came and immediately arrested him. But before Speck left, he immediately kicked Baki, who had gotten back up, saying they would meet again. On the other hand, there was a large, muscular man with long red hair named Yujiro Hanma who was watching the news on television about a dangerous inmate who had escaped from prison. Yujiro is Baki's father, the strongest man most feared by many combat troops around the world because of his extraordinary martial abilities. At the same time, Yanagi is meeting one of his old enemies named Gouki Shibukawa, who is the inventor of the Jiu-Jitsu martial art, which can defeat the enemy by attacking vital points of the enemy's body. However, Yanagi once fought against Shibukawa, then defeated him again. Meanwhile, Spec, in a Tokyo prison, starts to make a fuss by beating the police commissioner Morio Sonoda. Not only that, but he also broke through the walls of the prison room and brutally beat the shopkeeper until the shopkeeper broke his bone. In another place in a karate martial arts college, founded by a man named Doppo Orochi, there is a martial arts duel match between Orochi's boy named Katsumi Orochi and a man named Kaioh Retsu, who is an expert in Chinese Kenpo martial arts. Even though the match was a draw, Katsumi acknowledged the greatness of Retsu's fighting ability. Shortly after, Dorian came and said he was looking for Orochi Doppo. But instead of meeting on good terms, Dorian attacked Katsumi brutally with various punch and kick techniques until he suffered a severe wound in his neck. When Dorian was about to leave, Retsu stopped him and asked him to return to the battle arena. Hearing that, he casually drank a bottle of alcohol and spilled some alcohol around it, then set the arena on fire as a diversion for him to escape. Meanwhile, Tokugawa was having dinner with several underground arena martial arts fighters at his house. But not long after that, Sikorsky suddenly appeared and immediately attacked one of the fighting men in the room with such brutality that he had to be rushed to the hospital because he was seriously injured. After that, another fighting man, angry with what Sikorsky had done, immediately challenged and threatened him. However, he was no match, and Sikorsky could easily beat him with one kick. After that, Tokugawa took Sikorsky to the underground arena to meet the fighters who would become his enemies. The 5 inmate monsters also came to the meeting, including Spec, who had escaped from the Tokyo prison after leaving a message that he would be back soon. After Tokugawa and Sikorsky arrived with the other 4 inmates, Baki suddenly appeared with the 4 master fighter dungeons. Tokugawa also divided them into 2 groups, the convict group and the underground master fighter group. In Baki's group, there is Doppo Orochi, the founder of the largest karate school in Japan, and Kaoru Hanayama, the leader of the strongest Yakuza gangster in Japan. Then there are Shibukawa and Retsu, who previously fought Yanagi and Dorian. After that, Tokugawa gave information about the match tournament between 38 strong fighters he had held a year ago, in which 17-year-old Baki managed to come out as the winner. However, in this match tournament, Tokugawa will provide different rules where each fighter can attack their enemy anytime and anywhere under any conditions. That means they will not fight in the arena of competition but in various places as long as they go about their daily lives. And that night, the match between the 2 groups was declared to have started. After hearing all the rules, Baki decided to go back home because he had to go to school tomorrow morning. That night after the meeting was over, Doppo and Dorian were walking together when Retsu suddenly appeared and targeted Dorian as his first enemy. However, before Retsu could attack, Doppo had already attacked Dorian with his very powerful karate kick ability. Besides his strong attack ability, Doppo also has great defensive power. This can be proven by his technique successfully overcoming Dorian's bursts of fire. However, within seconds, his left wrist was suddenly severed by the titanium wire from Dorian's lighter. It turned out that the lighter was a special weapon that had been designed using titanium wire, which was very sharp and thin but had the strength to withstand a load of up to 200 kilograms. That was why Dorian allowed his body to be continuously attacked by Doppo, so he could attach the wire to Doppo's wrist and cut it. However, this was not a problem for Doppo because previously, he had lost his fingers while undergoing training through Raden. With his full power, he hit Dorian's face with his left arm bone until Dorian's facial bone cracked. When Dorian was thrown far away, he used the opportunity to leave for the time being and continue the fight next time. The next day, Baki is out on a date with a girl named Matsumoto Kozue, the daughter of the owner of the inn where he lives. They look nervous, but actually, they like each other. In the evening, when he was kissing her, Spec suddenly appeared behind them. Luckily, Kozue didn't notice Spec's presence because Hanayama quickly pushed him away from Baki's place. Apparently, Hanayama wanted Spec to be his opponent in this duel match. Spec excitedly, while grinning, accepted the challenge and charged straight at Hanayama. Spec should not underestimate him because he is a Yakuza leader who is accustomed to living in danger and can defeat all members of a rival Yakuza group alone. Spec immediately hit him relentlessly and even threw a park bench, but all of those attacks still couldn't weaken him. After that, Spec attacked Hanayama with a signature punch known to be very dangerous and deadly. Several years ago, he punched the Liberty statue hundreds of times until it nearly collapsed and had to be supported by very strong iron wires. This time, Spec repeatedly punched Hanayama so that he could only withstand the attack without being able to throw a punch. But apparently, after Spec finished with his fist, Hanayama knocked him out with just one hit until he fell to the ground. After that, Hanayama continued his attack with a powerful punch that was able to make Spec helpless. But before he landed his final blow, Spec had already blown his cheek with an explosive bullet he had stolen from a police officer. However, Hanayama could still stand up straight even though his face had been eroded by the explosion and immediately hit Spec against a power pole until he was scorched. Not long after that, the police officers were surprised by Hanayama, who brought Spec, who was already helpless due to electric shock. However, their fight resumed when Spec, who had recovered, overturned the car driven by Hanayama and several police officers. The fiercer and more intense battle between them continues again. However, even after various attacks and tactics such as multiple punches, pistol shots, and lightning grenades by Spec, Hanayama won the match again. A few days later, Spec is still in a coma and still undergoing treatment at the hospital. His condition, which was previously very fit and looked like a 50-year-old man, has now turned into a very frail and aging man like he was already 97 years old. His dream to experience his last defeat has now been achieved. On the other hand, Baki seemed bored with his school lessons, so he kept yawning. This was seen by the principal, who immediately reprimanded and advised him that not all problems in this world could be solved with muscles. While hitting Baki on the head, the principal asked him to take lessons seriously and use his brain because human intelligence can exceed the limitations of human physical strength. Shortly after, Doyle suddenly appeared by breaking through the classroom window and directly hitting the principal. Baki, satisfied to see him hitting the principal, was moved and thanked him. After that, Baki immediately ran out of the room and went to the school's backyard to avoid fighting with Doyle. He doesn't want his classmates to know his true identity, so he avoids fights in school. Unfortunately, he has been targeted by Yanagi, who previously disguised himself as the school gardener. Using a weapon called Kyokutsu Shoge, Yanagi immediately attacked Baki's head. With Yanagi's swift attack, Baki lost his weapon and almost got hit. Luckily, he managed to dodge, and the attack only hit his uniform. But the fight was suddenly interrupted by Shibukawa, who attacked Yanagi in the same way he attacked him before. Shibukawa then asked Baki to attack Yanagi because there were no rules requiring a one-on-one duel in this season's match. The battle between them against Yanagi begins. Even though Yanagi had to face two people at once, he could still survive using various extraordinary techniques. One of his techniques is to reduce the oxygen from the enemy, which he currently applies to Baki to make him fall unconscious. Luckily, the fight didn't last long because police sirens started to sound, and he had to run away from the place immediately. In the evening, Baki and the 4 other underground arena fighters gather at Tokugawa's house. But in the middle of the meeting, Dorian suddenly appeared with a bucket full of gasoline and matches. Luckily, just as Dorian was about to burn them all, Katsumi came and kicked the petrol bucket and spilled it on his body. As a result, Dorian was burned with gasoline that he brought himself. Doppo, who saw Katsumi's action, felt proud of him because Katsumi had practiced beauty in karate martial arts, where he did not use weapons to defeat Dorian. Doppo thinks that preparing weapons before fighting is the same as lowering the fighter's self-esteem and tarnishing the honor of the fight. Surprisingly, even though he was burned in a very hot fire, Dorian still managed to survive and even challenged Katsumi to a fight. Hearing this, Katsumi introduced Dorian to his teacher named Kato Kiyosumi and challenged him to fight with Kato. Kato is a karate master who prefers to fight on the field than in the arena. Without delaying any longer, he immediately attacked Dorian, and the battle between them began. The fight didn't last too long because Dorian could easily entangle Kato and Katsumi with the piano strings he had prepared beforehand. Luckily, Doppo could sever the strings using his bare hands while explaining that any human being can turn their hand into a lethal weapon with intense practice and years of hard work. Shortly after, Dorian suddenly took out a grenade from his mouth, exploding the place. Everyone in that place managed to survive, including him, who currently managed to escape and chose to hide in a water channel in the middle of the city. Without Dorian knowing, Kato had followed him for a long time and challenged him to resume their fight. He used oil and broken glass as gloves in that fight and started attacking Kato repeatedly. But the attack made Kato feel happy and challenged because the fight became more interesting. Kato then counterattacked and hit Dorian from all directions until it stabbed him in the eye and tasted victory over his defeat. However, it turns out that Dorian has made a hypnotic move by taking advantage of Kato's ambition to win and making Kato think as if he has defeated him. And to end the fight, he immediately snared Kato's neck with the wire string he had previously prepared. The next day, Kato's helpless body was found by Retsu in a boxing bag at the Shinkai karate training ground. He immediately took the dying Kato to the hospital for treatment. Since that incident, Doppo and Katsumi ordered their members to hunt down Dorian all over Tokyo and capture him. With the number of members of the karate college reaching hundreds of people, it did not take long to find and arrest him. All Shinkai Karate School members from various professions began to gather to defeat Dorian. They immediately led him to come to an amusement park and asked him to still go to the amusement park alone. After arriving inside the park, Dorian is greeted by a clown and taken to enjoy the various rides at the venue. While enjoying the rides, he is beaten by a man named Atsushi Suedo, Kato's comrade in arms. They also fought fiercely on a roller coaster that went at high speed. Suedo, who understands Sanshin's balance skills, can maintain his balance and attack Dorian without falling. Realizing this, Dorian decided to push him and knock them both off the top of the roller coaster. It turned out that Dorian could still get up and survive after falling from that height because he hooked the titanium strings on the lamppost and held the weight on his body using the strings so that he didn't fall to the ground directly. After that fight, Dorian had to deal with Doppo, who wanted revenge for his left hand, which had been severed due to his previous fight against him. Without hesitation, Doppo hit and kicked him repeatedly, using all his strength. During the fight, it is revealed that Doppo has managed to reattach his hand with the help of a talented doctor who is capable of performing complicated and complex operations. Dorian again used the hypnotic technique he had previously used against Kato. However, this time the technique didn't work for Doppo because he still had very fast reflexes despite being under hypnosis. He is a karate legend who is used to living in danger and automatically has a very high sensitivity to various attacks around him. With that ability, Doppo, who has been free from Dorian's hypnotic influence, has finally defeated him. After Doppo destroys all of Dorian's ribs and leg bones, he allows Kato to end this fight by killing Dorian. But before Kato had even hit a single blow, Dorian was already in the shadows with his fright and immediately declared that he had lost. That night while in the hospital, Dorian visits Kato's room and says he is very disappointed that Kato didn't kill him in the previous fight. He was immediately out of the hospital. Apparently, he came to Doppo's house to use his last weapon, the explosive in his hand. Elsewhere, Baki and Kozue had just returned home after a date and had dinner together. While watching Kozue running back to her house, he felt a little disappointed in himself for not having enough courage to invite her to his room. On the other hand, Dorian, who had just returned from Doppo's house, accidentally met Retsu. He got a punch from Retsu until he fell to the ground. When Dorian came back to his senses in the ambulance, his mentality had been worried, and now he was acting like a child who had lost his mom. Retsu, who saw him had gone mad, sympathized and intended to accompany him for the rest of his life. Meanwhile, Sikorsky suddenly comes to Kozue's room and threatens her. Luckily, Baki arrived just in time and immediately beat Sikorsky with his kick. He was angry with Sikorsky for involving his closest people in this fight. Baki then forces him to get out of Kozue's house. However, somehow, Sikorsky had already escaped and brought Kozue with him. In another place, Sonoda, a senior Japanese police officer, is discussing with representatives from the UK, US, and Russia to address the problems of 3 convicts still roaming in Tokyo. They also decided to ask for the help of an Arizona Prison USA inmate named Biscuit Oliver. Oliver is an inmate who receives special treatment from the US police because of his services in helping the police to catch big-time criminals. The next day, Sonoda immediately left for Arizona to meet with Oliver. Upon arriving at the prison room where Oliver is being held, he is surprised by Oliver's room, which is very luxurious and filled with paintings and sculptures of high artistic value. After arriving at the door of the room, Oliver welcomed and invited Sonoda to enter his hotel suite room. After that, he got a call from the police to arrest a criminal who was making a fuss in the city center. Oliver also invites Sonoda to come with him and see how he can catch the criminals who are wanted by the police. After arriving at that place, he immediately asked the police officers to go home because he would handle the criminal alone. Apparently, the villain this time is someone who wants revenge on Oliver for what he did to him a few years ago. Although the man shot Oliver repeatedly, the bullets from his rifle could not penetrate Oliver's tough body. On the contrary, Oliver could easily defeat him and hand him over to the police. The next day, Oliver and Sonoda immediately departed for Japan by boarding Oliver's private plane. After arriving in Tokyo, he asked Sonoda's permission to let him go for a while because he had personal matters to attend to. On the other hand, Katsumi and Baki received news that Yujiro had found information about Kozue's whereabouts. Baki immediately went to that place to save her. Meanwhile, at the place where Kozue is being held captive, Oliver and Yujiro accidentally meet to catch Sikorsky, and it seems they already know each other. After arriving at the place where Kozue was being held, Baki, who had realized that she had been harassed by Sikorsky, immediately attacked him with consecutive punches. Because of the kick, the apartment window shattered, and he fell. But Baki had to be surprised when he suddenly reappeared in the room. It turned out that he had clung to the iron of the building and was climbing again as he used to climb the prison walls to escape. Hearing this, Baki prepared to beat Sikorsky again and again. But the fight did not last long because the police officers had arrived, and Sikorsky had to flee immediately. In the afternoon, Baki came to Sikorsky's hideout and asked him to continue their fight. Naked, he begins to fight against Baki, who is overcome by anger and a desire for revenge for what he did to Kozue. Baki launched continuous punches at Sikorsky's body from various directions and ended his attack by kicking his groin until he bled and fell unconscious. Oliver, who watched all this secretly, immediately approached Baki and congratulated him while clapping his hands. Oliver then intends to take Sikorsky away from that place and hand him over to the police, as it has become his duty to help the police catch 3 dead inmates who have escaped prison. However, Baki, who felt slighted by Oliver, immediately aimed a punch at his face, but he easily parried the blow. Sikorsky, who had woken up from his stupor, got up and immediately challenged Oliver to fight. He throws punches and fists into Oliver's body, but all those attacks do not affect him. Otherwise, Oliver can easily hit Sikorsky's body with only one punch. Afterward, he handed the helpless Sikorsky to Sonoda and thanked Baki for finding Sikorsky's hiding place. At night, when Oliver was collecting data about Doyle at the police station, suddenly Doyle, disguised as a police officer, appeared and immediately attacked him with a knife embedded in his elbow. Seeing Doyle's arrival, Oliver felt relieved and immediately locked the room door so that he could not escape. They also fought fiercely with various punches that resulted in many wounds on their bodies. However, with greater physical strength and stronger defensive capabilities, Oliver seemed superior to Doyle, causing him limp. When he pulls Doyle's collar, his hand is injured by a sharp razor blade attached to that collar, and Doyle uses the opportunity to attack him. At the same time, Sonoda and Shibukawa entered Oliver's room. They were surprised seeing him, who was already injured, and the room was covered in blood. Oliver said that there was a policewoman who had previously attacked him and escaped through a ventilation hole in the room. Elsewhere, there is a large man named Shinogi Kosho who teaches karate training at the Shinkai College by demonstrating his skill in cutting things with his bare hands. Shinogi have a very deadly mainstay technique called the cord cutter. After the lecture, he asks Katsumi about the death row convicts who have been roaming in Tokyo seeking their defeat. Shinogi intends to fight one of the prisoners in a one-on-one duel because he feels that he has become stronger since his fight against Baki 1 year ago. Katsumi also tells him about the whereabouts of Doyle, who is currently staying at a luxury hotel in room number 701. When Shinogi arrived in front of the hotel, Doyle was seen checking all the weapons he had installed in his body. Shinogi immediately attacked him with a powerful kick to his neck, causing him to have a seizure. Just as Shinogi was caught off guard, Doyle used the opportunity to blast a heel shot at his face, causing his lower jaw to shift. When Shinogi was about to make another attack, Doyle quickly activated a bomb aimed directly at his face until his face was destroyed by a powerful explosion. While Doyle himself did not suffer too severe injuries from the explosion because he had modified his body to be immune to the explosion. As a result of the fight, Shinogi had to undergo many operations and be hospitalized for a long time. His older brother, a doctor and an underground arena fighter, also feels very sad to see his condition seriously injured and intends to take revenge on Doyle. Shinogi's older brother also meets another underground arena fighter named Jack Hanma, who is Baki's half-brother. After Jack knew that Doyle had defeated Shinogi, he decided to help Shinogi take revenge on Doyle. He also did all this as a thank you for the services of Shinogi's older brother for his bone-lengthening surgery after Jack was defeated by Baki in an underground arena match a year ago. On the other hand, Doyle and Retsu, who accidentally met, decide to fight each other in a one-on-one duel at a bar. In that fight, he releases the attack first by piercing Doyle's eye with kunai and burning his body with a burst of fire. After that, Retsu threw kunai successively all over Doyle's body until he felt pain and became weak from losing a lot of blood. Seeing his unfavorable condition, Doyle decided to escape using a smoke bomb. But it was just Doyle's tactic to attack Retsu from behind. Unfortunately, the attack did not mean anything to him, and he immediately gave 1,000 punches to Doyle's body. As Retsu was about to end Doyle with a Wushu spear, he asked Doyle if he had admitted his defeat. Doyle replied that he could still get back up and had not tasted defeat at all, so that made Retsu angry and immediately attacked him with various kicks. The following day, Retsu, who saw Doyle's condition was dying, decided to take him to the health facility at the Shinkai Karate College. A few days after Doyle underwent treatment, he woke up and saw himself at Shinkai's college. Retsu explains that he has been in a coma for 2 days and has lost a lot of blood, so Shinkai students decide to donate their blood to him. A few days later, Retsu found Doyle had left his treatment room and concluded that Doyle had now recovered from his injuries. The following night, Doyle suddenly appeared at the Shinkai karate training room to thank several students who had donated blood when he was sick. But his purpose in coming to that place was not only to thank him but also to continue the fight against Katsumi, which was still not over. After donning the aluminum suit, Doyle spread the cake flour throughout the training room and immediately lit a match. As a result, the room immediately exploded and caused a fire so intense that it scorched everyone in the room. After successfully setting fire to the Shinkai Karate College building, Doyle casually walks into an alley and accidentally runs into Doppo. Doppo avoids Doyle, who doesn't want to admit defeat after he openly loses to Oliver and Retsu. He also challenges Doyle to a duel in the field while insulting him by saying he is allowed to use weapons. Doyle, who felt annoyed, immediately attacked Doppo with a hard punch, but he easily blocked the attack. On the other hand, Doppo can easily defeat him with just one hit and instantly knock him unconscious. When Doyle wakes up, he finds himself inside the Shinkai Karate College building and sees Katsumi with level 2 burns all over his body. Katsumi asked him if he had admitted his defeat, but before he could answer, Katsumi kicked him with a hard kick that made him fall unconscious. Katsumi kept doing that repeatedly until he was willing to admit his defeat. That night when Doyle woke up from his sleep, Katsumi's assistant said that Katsumi had decided to stop their fight and appointed him as the winner in this fight. Katsumi admits that he doesn't have the heart to destroy Doyle's body even more. So, he prefers to lose this fight. Hearing this, Doyle decided to meet Katsumi and admit his defeat. Meanwhile, Sonoda gets news that Sikorsky has managed to escape from the prison, which has a high level of security, by climbing the prison wall with finger power. In another place, Yanagi comes to see Baki, who is with Kozue, and asks him to fight one-on-one. They went to the field and started fighting with Baki, who gave the first attack. After that, Yanagi retaliated against Baki with a very deadly chopping technique by suggesting himself as water that went with the flow. However, as it turned out, Baki had also learned the cutting technique from his father, who had previously said that the move was usually used for self-defense. Unfortunately, in the middle of the fight, Sikorsky suddenly appears and helps Yanagi attack him together. That means Baki must face 2 enemies at once in one battle. Without the slightest bit of fear, he immediately attacked them with multiple punches and kicks in succession. After that, Yanagi decided to stop the fight and take Kozue away from that place. At night in the port of Tokyo, Yanagi suddenly appears in front of Doyle, who is about to wander into another city. He feels disappointed in Doyle, who prefers to admit defeat and make peace with the enemy. Feeling offended by his insults, Doyle immediately attacked him with a punch. However, before Doyle could attack, Yanagi had already hit him in the eye with a poisoned hand that made him blind. With such conditions, he was easily defeated by Yanagi, and he was forced to throw himself into the sea before Yanagi could kill him with a katana. On the other hand, Jack, who had managed to find Sikorsky in a phone booth, immediately attacked and trapped him in the phone booth. After that, Jack loaded him into a boxcar and sent him into the underground arena stadium to fight in a one-on-one duel. The fight between them continues in the arena with one simple rule: fighting with bare hands. In that match, Jack seemed superior with physical strength and greater body size than Sikorsky until he had to attack using weapons in the form of wooden guns and a nail. However, all these attacks mean nothing to Jack, who has strong abdominal muscles and fast reflexes. After an hour had passed, Jack was replaced with a smaller fighter named Gaia. All of the audience seemed to underestimate Gaia because his body is smaller than Sikorsky and Jack's, but he immediately silenced the audience's screams with a surprising action. He could easily destroy all the lights above the arena with one roar, and the action instantly silenced the entire audience. After that, Gaia attacked Sikorsky with the sand in the arena. The sand had been mixed with the teeth and nails left over from the previous battles. Gaia attacks Sikorsky with a slash of sand and makes his entire body injured by nails and teeth piercing his skin. After that, Gaia issued a new attack move by camouflaging the sand in the arena so that Sikorsky had difficulty seeing and knowing his whereabouts. He took the opportunity to attack Sikorsky from all directions and frightened him with every attack that was to come. Sikorsky was constantly haunted by a terrible fear of every attack that appeared every 10 seconds until finally, he decided to give up and admit his defeat. On the other hand, Yanagi was fighting a man named Motobe using the weapon he had used against Baki. But Motobe seems superior. He can cut off Yanagi's poisoned right hand using his weapon. In the middle of the fight, Yujiro suddenly appeared and said Yanagi had lost the fight. However, because Yanagi did not want to admit his defeat, Yujiro immediately hit his face with a tough blow, causing him to fall to the ground. On the other hand, Doyle, who was hiding in a cave on the beach, was found by Oliver. Knowing that Doyle had been blind, Oliver immediately attacked him with one hard blow until he fell unconscious. Finally, 5 death row inmates who sought their final defeat have got what they wanted. On the other hand, Baki, who had previously been attacked by Yanagi's poisonous fist, is now starting to experience severe symptoms where his body is getting thinner and weaker. He was immediately rushed to the hospital for treatment. After receiving news from the doctor that his chances to survive were slim, Kozue became very worried and sad. A few days later, Baki escapes from the hospital and returns to his home because he discovers that there is still no cure for his illness. A few days later, Baki and Kozue go to a house located in the mountains to meet a fighting man named Ando. After seeing the condition of Baki's body, which was very concerning due to the poison from Yanagi that had entered the skin and bones in his body, Ando immediately mixed various herbs and herbal medicines to neutralize the poison in his body. However, Ando cannot promise him much because, according to Ando, his condition is already impossible to cure. After that, Baki went to a cave that was once a place where he made a promise never to lose in a martial arts battle. However, that day, he finally declared that he had lost the battle against Yanagi and could not keep his promise. After Baki returned to Ando's house, Retsu, worried about Baki's condition, came to visit him. When Baki was about to shake hands with Retsu, Retsu suddenly hit him with one punch, causing him to fall unconscious. It turns out that Retsu wants to take him to a Chinese martial arts college to participate in a great Ratai match. This Ratai match is only held once every 100 years, and only great world-class fighters can participate in the Ratai match. In that match, Baki will later fight against his father, Yujiro Hanma, and Muhammad Ali's son, Ali Jr. Even though Baki's condition is still very weak and his body is still contaminated with Yanagi's poison, he intends to be able to win the Ratai match because his goal has been to defeat his own father. And the anime ends.